Well, welcome. As Pete and Alex announced on Wednesday, we've got something to share with you following on from the beginning of the week.
Last Tuesday the Prime Minister announced that places of worship can begin to open from this coming weekend, from the 4th of July. And so we've been waiting for the actual detail to be produced by the government, which came out on Monday of this week. And so the leadership team met on Tuesday with the directors and our pastoral lead just to discuss how we might approach the new regulations.
Yeah, and as a team, our desire and our heart is that we can gather together as City Church. We are family and we love each other and we want to be together.
Yeah. So we want to be together, but we also want to be safe and we want to follow the government guidelines. We really feel that's important, and for all sorts of legal reasons we need to do that with insurance background stuff as well. So that's really important that we do that.
It is, and we want to retain the identity of City Church. We don't want that to change because of things with the guidelines.
And I think that's a really important point, because when we came into lockdown and all of a sudden it was thrust upon us and we went online very, very quickly, but we wanted to retain a lot of the elements of a typical Sunday morning service. And so a number of things we tried to ensure that we've had in that service online. Yeah,
we have. We've done our welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've done sung worship.
We have. We do like to sing.
We do like to sing. And that's been really interesting. When we first started 14 weeks ago, whatever it was, we were using songs that were pre-recorded by churches around the world to sing to. And then our team, just prior to lockdown, a couple of days before, a number of our team came in the building and recorded some songs, so we were also able to use some of those, which was great. But then the team have done an amazing job, and we're very blessed with the gifting and skill mix that we've got. They've been recording at home, some of them, mixing it all together. It's taken a lot of time and a lot of energy, and we really do appreciate it. So it's come on quite a way.
It has.
But it's
been
something
amazing.
We've been able to retain, and we've been singing our hearts out in our front room.
We have, yeah. And the other thing as well that we've been able to continue to do is to have words of encouragement, and our salvation testimonies that we've just recently started sharing, they've been amazing, and we've been able to do that.
They've been great, yeah. And the whole reason for doing the salvation testimonies, it's very interesting looking at the statistics. So in the first 2 months of the year, our average attendance here in the building was 189 people for January and February on any given Sunday, which was great coming into the new year. But we've had a lot more views now online, averaging out per week. And so we're really finding that a lot more people are tuning in, and we don't know who all those people are. We do get some feedback from people who view it, but we really wanted to take the opportunity to share salvation stories, and so it's been great to hear some of those. And if you've got one, please don't hesitate to send one in. The details are on our weekly email.
And of course, the other thing that we've been doing as well online is our kids provision.
Yeah.
Really thankful that David Jones Jr., he came on board on staff earlier on in the year and has been thrown straight into coronavirus and put in stuff and content online, and it's been absolutely brilliant. And of course, we had to do our kids camp online.
Yep.
Which was amazing, yeah.
So a lot of hard work goes into that, and they're constantly evolving that whole thing.
Yeah. And prayer. We've had prayer, haven't we? We've got our prayer slots, which we do on a Sunday morning when we're all together. We've continued those online, which has been great, having different people sharing.
And then, of course, one of the other things we've retained is communion. We typically do that once a month. We've done that, usually on the second Sunday of a month.
Yeah. We've had, obviously, sharing the Word of God. We've had different speakers bringing those from their own homes, and filming themselves. It's been amazing. Yeah. And then, of course, we have our information slot at the end where we bring a few notices. And then just recently, probably over the last month, maybe 5 weeks, we've had our prayer team available, like we would on a Sunday, where you can log into Zoom and we can pray with you.
Yeah. So that was really important to try and retain as much of the elements of a Sunday morning that we were used to when we came into doing our online stuff. So thank you to everybody who's been helping out with that.
Yeah.
So going forward for our Sunday services, we still want to be able to retain those 9 elements that we've just talked through. But there are some quite big challenges with that under the new regulations gathering in buildings like this. 2 of the big elements for us, which I think probably City Church is probably well known in the area. First one would be kids provision. So for the first 2 months of the year, we had on average 48 people involved in kids' church each week. That includes all the kids and those who were teaching and staff, etc., who were serving in that. That was across 4 age ranges, 5 separate groups every Sunday morning. So quite a thing.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be a bit of a challenge, wouldn't it, coming in here?
Absolutely would. I mean, we love our city kids and being together. And in our rooms, we're very closely together because of the amount of children that, we've got being a part of City Church. But because of our social distancing that we have to put in place now, because of the regulations and guidelines, we won't be able to use the house. There just isn't the space. You could maybe get 2 people in one room and that's about it. We can potentially move over to the community hall, but that would only allow a certain age, and we only maybe get 10 in there, which isn't enough. It's too small a capacity.
Yeah, because that would include staff as well.
It would, yeah.
Doing that. Yeah. So we could only really cater for a very small number of children. And the other thing, in the guidelines that have come out, we would have to comply with a whole raft of Department for Education regulations as well. That would be a brand new thing for us.
Yeah.
So that just puts a whole different picture on kids' provision going forward. So that's one of the big things that would be really difficult for us to do.
It would be very difficult.
We probably really couldn't do that.
We couldn't do it, no.
The other thing, of course, is sung worship, and there's been a lot of talk about that in the media. And under the new guidelines, only one person would be allowed to sing in this room at any one time. So everyone else would have to sit silent.
Yeah, and that's not us. That is not us.
Is not us.
I don't think City Church, I don't think we could do that, could we? We could not come in, sit in a chair while somebody else is leading our worship and with our mouths.
No, it just don't feel right.
No, it wouldn't.
So we'd really struggle with that.
We'd want to be up with our arms up and,
Yeah. But then, of course, there's the whole having a catch-up over coffee.
Yeah.
We have some people who typically are still here on a Sunday morning when we're meeting in the building, an hour after we finish the service. When we're sort of flicking the light switch almost. Yeah.
Because we love to be together.
We love to be together, yeah. So, obviously...
So, you think now that the government is allowing us to gather, that we could at least do some of that.
But it appears not when you read the guidelines. No. So, again, no chatting.
No chatting and at 2 metre distancing.
Yeah. And so you think, well, if we're sat 2 metre distancing, perhaps we could shout at one another across the room. No, actually, we're not allowed to shout. That's actually in the guidelines.
Yeah. No shaking of hands. No hugging.
No greeting one another with a holy kiss. We won't be able to do that.
No coffee.
No coffee.
No coffee, no refreshments at all. No hanging around for an hour to catch up with friends.
Yeah.
People have to, pretty much when the service is finished, get up straight away and out the door.
Yeah. So even though with the government guidelines we could gather on a Sunday morning, we wouldn't be able to retain a number of key elements that are part of our DNA as City Church, part of who we are.
Yeah, so what we're going to do?
What we're going to do?
Yeah. What are we going to do, David?
Having a conversation with the leadership team directors the other night, we are going to continue with Sunday services online for the next few weeks at least. We're also going to watch and learn what others are doing. Some churches have announced that they're actually going to be meeting from this coming weekend on a Sunday for their services. A lot of churches, in fact, there are more churches who, like us, are holding off for the time being because they just feel it's not workable. It's not doesn't represent who they are, which is very much what we're feeling in our setting. And what we'll do at the end of this month, at the end of July, we'll review that whole position again, looking forward.
Have a review of it. And having said that, still one of our big concerns as the leadership team and directors is that now that the government is allowing us to use our building, should we not be doing that? Should we not, make some steps to start at least having a small gathering?
Yeah, well, firstly, we can start to use the building a little bit more. Our worship team will be able to come in and record stuff in here where they've not been able to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Might only be able to have one singer at a time in the building doing that. But secondly, on the issue of gathering, an opportunity to gather as the church together, what we've been looking at, and we'll continue to look at the possibility of over the summer, beginning with some midweek evening gatherings. Now, these would be primarily for prayer and delving into God's word. But all those restrictions we talked about just a moment ago, they would still have to be in place. So there would be no sung worship, but it would be more speaking from the front, as it were.
Yeah. So because we're going to be in the building and we've got reduced capacity, we're also going to be looking at live streaming those meetings. If we can't live stream, we'll record them and we'll put them online so that you'll be able to watch from home. If you can't make it together because of health, vulnerability, age, because you're shielding, or because you're at home and you've got young children in bed, you'll be able to still catch it online, but we will encourage you as well, those that can, to book in and gather in person.
Yeah. And if we can do something over those summer weeks, when the schools are typically off, although that's all been a bit of a mess this year, that's obviously often when some of our Connect groups take a little bit of a break over summer. And our Connect group leaders done an amazing job of trying to keep the City Church family connected and
been great,
learning whole new skills with regard to online gatherings, etc., doing loads more phone calls and texting and all sorts of stuff like that. So
and we've been able to nip in on those, haven't we?
We've been able to nip in on some of those as well. But maybe just to give them a little bit of a break going forward for a few weeks would be really, really good.
And because now we can start holidaying a bit more.
Yeah, we can potentially, if we get the opportunity, have a bit of a break. But before we do any gatherings, we'll be carrying out an in-depth risk assessment to ensure that we are COVID-19 secure, which is a requirement for us. And so there's a number of guidelines that we will have to follow, and we'll share some of those with you now, probably. We'll do a little bit of a walkthrough on camera in a moment. But one of the things we will have to do is get people to book into those gatherings in advance. We'll have to do that under GDPR regulations, Data Protection Acts, etc. But it will also, the requirement is that we can then inform the track and trace system that the government has put in place if anybody subsequently is tested positive for COVID-19, having been in our setting. So we will have to have a sort of register of people.
We will. We do have to keep that for a certain length of time.
21 days, I think it is, yeah.
Now, the toilets will be open, but obviously it'll be a one in and one out system. Because they're small, because they're confined, you can only have one person in at a time. So,
Okay, so for the purposes of the video, we are 2 metres apart, although we are actually from the same household. Got stickers on the floor here, keep us separated. We'll be allowed in. Somebody will guide us with regard to that. And then we'll be faced with this table where there's some notices about the one-way system, keeping 2 metre distancing, and of course, hand sanitising when we come in. And then we have this one-way system coming down into the building. And then we can begin to fan out into the seats. Now the seats are all spaced at the moment 2 metres apart. And so we've just got just under 30 seats in the main building here. Obviously, if a couple come, we can have 2 seats together, a family, and we'll put a few more seats together. We would know that, obviously, because people would have booked in, so we can rejig it during the day before an evening gathering like that. And then, of course, people will be sat down, it will be led from the front, and then at the end of our time together, we'll all go out, and we'll go out through the one-way system which will be down the building and out through the main door onto Chelmsford Avenue itself. So that gives you a bit of an idea. And as you go out there, you'll find hand sanitizer again to use on your way out. And obviously, as we've said, the toilets will be open, although we will have to sort of make sure just one person at a time is using the facilities. So that's pretty much where we think it's going to go. I say the full risk assessment has not yet been completed, so that might just change a little bit. And so when we come out with hand sanitizer again and out through the main door onto Chelmsford Avenue itself. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an indicator how we're planning to do things for those midweek gatherings when they start. And I think the other thing, just to remind people, obviously people who would fall into the categories of the vulnerable because of age or health, the advice still for those from the government is if you've got underlying health issues or 70 or over, then you should take particular care to minimise contact with others outside of your household. Yeah. And then if you're shielding, the advice, it's shifting slightly next week, but it's still strongly advised not to come to gatherings. Yeah. And of course, if you are exhibiting coronavirus symptoms, stay at home.
Yeah, stay at home. Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we wanted to say to you today. Just to say that we will not be putting Sunday gatherings in place in the short term. We will review it later on this month, but we will be looking at putting some things on midweek over the summer weeks. So the Lord bless you. Thank you for joining with us, and we very much appreciate you praying for us in this time when we're having to make these very tricky decisions. The Lord bless you.
Bye.